You'll recall in August, actually the end of July, that I had gone off to VST to take a course in preaching and preaching for growth, and that we needed to create a culture of invitation. And you must be thinking, I would never invite anybody to come with the first words of the Bible reading, I am doomed. Yeah. Right? Would you ever want? No. But here's the thing. We're living in this time of this bombardment of information. I'm the first believer I'm the first person to say and believe that I create my own experience. Right? I can't change Myrna, but I can only change how I'm going to experience Myrna. Right? And that's like what we experience in the world today. So I'm living with this idea, where do I get my news? Where do I get my news? So I'm responsible for my own experience, so where do I get it? So I get it in these places. I look for it at my favorite news sources. I actually don't turn on the television. I actually use my iPad, and I have my favorite news sources. I listen to CBC Radio News a lot. I listen to CBC Radio a lot. I really like Ideas at 9 o'clock in the evening. I really like Q. I like Paul Kennedy and Tom Powers because I think they have some good things to say about the way the world is. I do listen regularly to The World at 6 on CBC Radio. That's their flagship radio news show. It's a half an hour long. I get my news there. I almost always switch off the noon phone-in show. It's banal, right? It's people. I turn it off. I don't want to hear it. I often read The New Yorker, the magazine The New Yorker, online. You might, I read that too. I read The New York Times online, but I don't get it and just I pull what I want to read. Every now and then a friend on Facebook sends me an article. I actually read sometimes the Financial Post, and yes, I actually read the national other thing, that other national thing. The National Enquirer? No, not the National I don't watch. Well, I actually do. We all do. In the lineup in the grocery store, you can't help it. Right? Okay, so that's not really information. I said, where do you get your news? So, I don't watch television unless there's something that someone invites me to see that catches my eye on the sources. Now, you might be thinking that my collection of information is really limited and that I'm not seeing the whole picture, and you might be right. But I don't think I'm alone. If I'm watching the news all the time, and I'm responsible for my own experience, if I listened, I would be a depressed person. Right? The headlines this week alone make me crazy. You want to hear them? Trump unilaterally revokes former director of CIA security clearance. Brennan claims it's politically motivated, and Trump is silencing his critic. That's the first one. Russia says U.S. sanctions over North Korea risk undermining the peace process. Ugandan lawmakers and others are charged with treason over the stoning of the Museveni convoy. Islamic State said that one of its militants was responsible for a deadly suicide bombing in the Shiite area of the Afghan capital, Kabul. The Kinder Morgan resistance camps were dismantled among cries of protest and police arrest. Dozens of companies might close and lay off U.S. workers because of Trump's trade war. A new analysis warns a full-on trade fight would knock North American economies into recession. Good morning. Welcome to the world. You want to slit your wrist, right? And that's just the news I want to come to me. That's the news I sought. How many watch TV news regularly? How many have got it on all the time? Well, not all, but pretty regularly, right? The 6 o'clock news is it's like a bombardment, right? And then if you pick up the cable stations, right? And all that stuff. Anybody feeling depressed in the world? You go on, right? My friend, Vicki Lanny, who was the director of hospice services at Methodist Medical Center in Peoria, Illinois, when she was teaching, said, "We are a depressed society. If you want to change that, turn off the 6 o'clock news." Do you know when she said that? 1992. That's when she and I were working together. 1992. Each of us is caught in this place, aren't we? Each of us is caught trying to make sense of what's in this world. And in fact, the next 4 weeks, we're kind of unpacking the themes that are running through our world. And what is the gospel response to that? What is the agency of God? We get depressed, and yet we're still trying, but we still try to do the right thing, don't we? We still try to live our lives well. We still try to do our best with our neighbors. We still want to love. We still want to raise Owen and we want to nurture. Like, we're still trying to do our best. Some of us are working really hard in our careers. Others are preparing to retire and try and keep our lives kind of comfortable. And my millennial son, and likely yours or your grandson, is saying, "Why should you have any right to sustain your lifestyle, you baby boomer? It has been the most costly generation to the planet," he says, "to each other and to any other generation. If you spend any time with him, my son, on politics or on the economy, he will be the first to be critical. You simply have not earned the right to your lifestyle," he says, "beyond your capacity to earn it. You don't get to keep it after you retire," he says. "I can't even afford a house, and you want to maintain your lifestyle?" Ouch. "Dad, why do you think young people don't vote anymore?" he says. "It's because they want the political system to crumble. That's why they're not voting. They don't believe in the system. There needs to be a massive reordering of how human beings live with one another. We're not going to the polls because going to the polls says this is the right process. And I don't think it is," says my millennial son. "We're just waiting for you boomers to die." Okay, it's like he gets dramatic.
What does Luke say?
Luke just stands there. Can you hear the laments of the prophet? Can you hear the lament? "I am doomed. There's no integrity," he writes. "There are no good people in leadership," he writes. "Official and judge alike ask for a bribe," he speaks. "The powerful speak however they like. This is how they conspire. Deception is even in your family," he writes. "Trust no one, not even your wife." Micah is speaking to Judah. Just as Assyria has taken Samaria and is colluding with Israel to take over Judah. And Micah sees it coming. And making matters worse is Micah is seeing them not only deal in lousy politics, but dealing in lousy religion. The Assyrians are propagating false gods, some other mixed up god, not the God of Israel in the covenant. That's what Micah's mostly railing about. Politically, we're in a mess, but to pray to another God puts your soul in peril. And in the face of all of this, Micah puts his trust in the God of the covenant, the God of Israel, and looks for God's agency. When we were in Waves, the first thing out of somebody's mouth was, "Nothing's changed much." Nothing's changed much. And sometimes our response is, what are you going to do? Crazy is as crazy does, right? Crazy is as crazy does. We're going to live our lives. It's going to go like that. There's going to be we're not going to get any further. So what are we going to do? Let go, right? Well, yeah, actually, we have to let go. And we put, like Micah, our trust in the agency of God. When we say, I don't know what to do next. When you read the 6 o'clock news, I don't know what to do about that. Like Micah, we put our trust in the agency of God. I am the bread of life, says Jesus. Those who eat me will live forever. And this Greek word is not just to eat. It's not just to kind of take a bite. The Greek word here used is to actually chew on. To actually masticate, like you're eating a piece of gristle. Chew on me. That's what's going on in this text. Chew on what it means to eat the body of Christ. The table, God's ultimate act of Christ's hospitality, is kind of what we're talking about here. Anyone who wants to chew on the body is welcome here. Anyone. And what ends up happening week after week as we show up here, chewing with each other on the body of Christ, whether we're at the table or whether we're simply doing this together, what happens week after week is that we end up being consumed by the body ourselves, being digested into the body. We become the body. It's no longer foreign to us. That's in practice. When we do that regularly, we become ingested by the body. And that makes all the difference. Here's what I think about that. There's a universality about this. And I'm going to call on the Gospel of John throughout this next thinking. Remember the words, God so loved the world that God gave the only Son? You know the text. John 3:16. Well, there's a follow-up with John 3:17. God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save it. And here the Greek word is sozo, S-O-Z-O. That word is like salve, like a healing balm, right? That's what that word means, heal. Healing balm. There's a balm in Gilead. You know what that kind of ozonol for your soul. Right? Panatin for your soul. Right? God did not send the Son into the world, but to soothe the world, to heal the world, to make the world well. So the Son, the table, the fulfillment of the covenant, some might say the new covenant, is Christ. So what I'm saying to you is that I'm a universalist here. I believe that every Muslim, every Jew, every Sikh, every Buddhist, every agnostic, every Unitarian, every atheist is a part of the body of Christ. That's the lens through which I see the world. I also, again, take it from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and not a thing was made without the Word. Everything came into being through the Word. Right? Christ, the Word, was at the beginning. So from my perspective, it doesn't require a human's response to be part of the body of Christ. It does not require a human response to hear the words, God so loved the world. It doesn't require your response. It's God's action first. Not to condemn the world, but to make the world well. You don't have to do a thing. So do you get why I'm a universalist? It doesn't, so every single person is part of the body of Christ. So if that's true, so maybe it's just a hypothesis, Blair. We'll go along with it, but I'm not sure. But if that's true, what do you think the implications of that are? Again, not a rhetorical question. What do you think the implications of the body of Christ includes all of creation because it was there at the time of creation? What does that mean? What are the implications of that? Any ideas? Any thoughts? What are the implications of a universalist body of Christ? Whether you believe it or not, you are in the body of Christ. What might that mean? Everyone's included. There's no longer us or them. There's only we.
No power struggle between religions.
No power struggle between the religions. What might the implications be? Acceptance. The implications land on us. I think fear disappears. Remember all of those headlines I listed? Did anybody start getting scared? I think when we say the whole body, the whole earth, and everything in it is the body of Christ, regardless of anyone's response to that, where it's God's action, I think fear disappears. Nothing separates us from the love of God. Frank and Emily sang the lyric this morning. Give us faith so we will be safe. The antidote to fear is faith. I also think an implication of this idea is that conflict and disagreement find a different place and a different way of expressing itself in the body. Because guess what? Donald Trump is part of the body of Christ. I'm not kidding. So is Putin. So is Elizabeth May and Justin Trudeau and Kim Jong-un. If God so loves the world. They are all part of the body of Christ for Christians. Whether they think they are or not. So let's stop for a minute and just think that through. There is no you and them. There is only us. And when that's true, we begin to live out our values and seek to see those values in the body. How many have blocked Facebook friends because you finally had enough of what they said? Right? We see the vilification of each other, particularly on Facebook. Instagram, not so much. Twitter, oh my goodness. Christians believe that God so loved the world that the world would be made well. There's a saying in the 12-step program. My friend has taught it to me, particularly in human relationships. You got to be responsible for your own side of the street. That's all you can't be responsible for somebody else's side of the street. You will make yourself crazy. You can only be responsible. Keep your own side of the street clean is the expression. Keep your own side of the street clean. So, what does that mean? When you are on Facebook, or when you are in a board meeting, or when you are at the water cooler, or when you are on the phone, and you experience behavior that's inconsistent with the body of Christ, we call it, we name that. I've been watching Sarah Huckabee Sanders a lot lately. And here's why I am. She's part of the body of Christ, A. B, she fully believes, at least she presents, fully believes in the goodness of an administration. She's motivated by nothing else. At least that's how she presents. When you watch, I've been watching her, I watched it all week. Look at how she behaves. She is super cool as a cucumber, right? And she looks for the best in other people. She names her humanity. There was one exchange where she talked about what it felt like to be abused by a comedian at the correspondence dinner. If we witness behavior that's inconsistent with what we believe to be about the body of Christ, even if it's with the people, even if we are doing the bashing of people, even if we're cutting off the friends, we're called to name it. Christ calls us to ingest the body. Chew on this, Christ says. Because to be in the body means this. It's really hard. That's why we need practice. We gather in this experience to practice chewing on what it actually means to be the body of Christ. In light of the economics of fear and the politics of fear, chew on Christ. That's what we say to the prophet when he's wringing his hands. Chew on Christ. Be the body. I invite you to do that. Chew on this. Please pray with me. We gather in your holy name, O God, being your people. The prophet and the gospel writer remind us what that means. The living Christ is within us, changing us, that we might be a change for the world. May it be true in your holy name.